Chris.
I'm Adrian.
And I'm Jimmy.
Welcome to Worldview Finder, episode 55.
55.
It's palindrome. Same forward and backwards.
Yep, just like Taco Cat.
Just like Taco Cat.
And race car.
Goat cheese pizza. A man playing a canal, Panama. That's also a palindrome.
See?
All right.
Look it up.
Heard it here first, folks.
Man, this week, I'm telling you guys.
We're talking about some crazy stuff. What are we talking about?
Do old people deserve to work?
I say no.
And by old, we mean 46-year-olds.
Specifically, okay.
Super old. How to stop erosion on your property. And I guarantee it's not what you guys think.
That sounds very compelling.
I know it sounds boring, but it is not. It's
wrong.
It's our Florida foible this week. And then what you need to know about Donald Trump's vice president pick.
Oh, we're getting political here.
VP pick.
Oh, my.
So we're not going to get political.
No,
I don't. We
it's
never.
not political.
We try, but yeah, but it's just
Is it a person who is in the spotlight who has a worldview?
We'll talk about his worldview.
Talk about the worldview.
But first, how I'm a moron. So I want to.
Chris has a confession.
So yeah,
Did
yesterday.
somebody give us a bad review or something?
No. Yesterday, me and two of my kids were swimming, and it had been about 20 minutes because I set my watch, of course, to get my exercise. Burn those calories while I swim.
Yeah.
So so it was about 20, 25 minutes into our swim, just hanging out and playing, and I bumped my pocket, and I'm like, oh. I have my phone in my pocket
For 20 to
25
minutes.
minutes.
Oh, my goodness.
I'm swimming with my phone. So I pull it out and it, like, the screen lights up like normal. I was like, oh, that's good. So
You should not try to do anything with it, though. Just throw it in a bag of rice.
So I took it and I put it in the bag of rice for a little bit.
It's supposed to be like overnight. He does it for like 3 minutes.
Well, I had to order food for our dinner. So then
You had a bag of rice right there.
You used somebody else's phone.
and so, but I got the apps. So then I ordered stuff and then went and picked up food. Then I put it in the bag of rice for the rest of the day or for the night.
Okay.
And it was fine.
Does it work now?
It was working before. Just the sound, because I tried playing music and it's like, it was crackly. But now, after a bag of rice, it worked.
Oh.
I did have to get the rice out of the little charging port.
Oh, yeah.
Is this going to charge?
I feel like they've said that it's like waterproof now. Their phones are.
Water resistant, probably.
Well, water resistant.
Not the sound, but yeah, I was very surprised and pleased at the same time. Pleased. But yeah.
Was it jasmine rice?
No, I think it was just the old plain white rice.
Oh, speaking of old plain white rice, we're going to talk about old people later.
J.D. Vance.
He has plain white rice.
But
I mean, not political. This is not a political statement.
What was funny was Sunny, our daughter, she was like, "What? Are we going to eat that rice?" I'm like, "Yeah, it'll just cook out." And she's like, "But it's got chlorine water in it."
That's true.
So
Chris, you have made her. Don't act like this is a weird thing. This is 100% growing up with you.
Is Chris the same way?
Yeah, I just...
for everything like that. Where's that been? Have you washed your hands?
What? I would do that?
Yeah, you'd be like, have you washed your hands?
Yeah, I would, because I don't want dirty
It'll
hands
cook
touching
out.
my food. But now my kid is like, this is what it was like.
A little bit of your own medicine, huh?
Yeah, because then so she's asking Angela about it, and Angela's like, "No, I said it'll cook out." She's like, "That's what she said." So now I just feed into her stuff to make her like more and more.
That's terrible.
Because she'll like drop something, it'll be like a potato chip, it'll fall on the ground, she'll pick it up, like, "Can I eat this?" I'm like, "Yeah, just blow it off. It was on the ground for like a second. It's
no,
fine."
you have no room to talk. This is exactly.
Chris would never do
This is
that.
exactly what we've dealt with you.
This is a generational cycle. I see it.
It is.
It really is. It's funny because
It's funny how so similar she is to you.
Yeah, and she's adopted. That's what's great.
Yeah, I know, but
she really
it's
is.
like she's so similar to you.
She very.
It's hilarious.
She is. I mean, I got shepherd stories. I'll share them later. Is It Cake is taking over our life.
Oh, that took over our life as well.
Oh my
No,
goodness.
I mean, he is constantly like, everything is It Cake?
Does he take a knife to it? I will hope.
Yeah.
Is the dog cake?
Like, is this cake?
The other day, I was cake. I was like, the whole time I was cake. I didn't know. But it really cut when he just sawed my arm
gets
off.
bad.
I am cake. Okay. All right. So, Vice President pick J.D. Vance.
J.D. Vance. So I didn't know who this guy was. Did you?
I did not either.
I didn't either. I hadn't heard of the movie.
Adrian said it's such a common name. She knows like 8 J.D. Vances.
It feels like it is a common name, but I think it's
Bob
from...
Vance, Vance Air Conditioning.
Yes, Bob Vance.
It's from The Office. But yeah, so yeah, he wrote Hillbilly Elegy, and then like they made it a movie.
Oh, it was a movie too?
Yeah, it was about
We
him
should watch it and discuss the worldview.
growing up in Appalachia. So he spoke at the what's it called? The
Faith and Flourishing.
Faith and Freedom Coalition. I don't.
Yeah,
What's it called?
Faith and Freedom.
Faith and Freedom Coalition. Yeah, and so he's talking about his faith as a follower of Jesus. And so he said, growing up, his grandma was his primary caretaker, and so he was with her. This is caretaker, not primary. The only caretaker. So he said they went to church some. He said she was religious and also liked the F word. I'm like, oh, it's like Adrian.
Amen.
All right. So, but anyways, so Adrian doesn't like the F word. I'm just joking. We always joke
After
about
the
that.
bear, though, might.
Oh, it's like that's all I say. So they grew up. He would go to church some. He's like, we go once or twice a month, if that, and like sometimes more, sometimes less. So he kind of had a faith background a little bit. And then he said, but then when I went to college, he's like, I got smart and educated and thought, okay, my grandma doesn't know stuff. I know things. She doesn't. And he said, like, basically became an atheist and was like, I'm smart.
Yeah.
But then he said, then he got married and had a kid. And he's like, I want my child to grow up and like, I want my son to be, I don't know if moral was the right word, but just like he wanted that kind of thing for his kid. So he said he started going to church, and I don't know if his wife was there with him or just because she didn't go either. And so I don't know if she went along with him, but she's like, I noticed that when you've been at church, you come back and you're more patient with our son, and you're more kind with me and more patient with me when I've had a bad day, and you're more forgiving, and like just different things that she's like started noticing about him after he'd been at church. And so he said, so he said, I came back to Jesus, and he got baptized 5 years ago, I think. And so, but it was interesting, like watching him kind of like almost his wife's perspective of like, oh, his worldview is changing about who he is. And like watching him kind of go through this, like, oh, I'm about myself and about these things. And then like to go to church and be like, oh, there's more out there and I can be a better person and a father through this. And we talked about cultural Christianity because Richard Dawkins recently, he's like a huge atheist guy. Do you know Richard Dawkins?
I know the name.
The God Problem and like other stuff. Yeah. And he's always been a very,
non-Christian person.
Non-Christian, yeah. A component of like
outspoken atheist.
Yeah, of like Christians are dumb and all this stuff. But now recently, like he's saying like, well, I like hymns. Or like there's like weird things that he's saying now that he's still not a Christian, but he's like, but we need Christian things. Yeah. We need the idea of love and the idea of forgiving others. And like we need those.
It's hard when it is the basis of truth.
Yeah.
Like people have to keep coming back to it when they start stripping everything else away. It's like, what foundation is left? And we know that it is God and Jesus and, like, but it's just interesting when people come to realize that.
Well, so listening to the clip that you had sent me, I know that I heard it, and the way that he was saying it made me take a little bit of a different kind of perspective of it. Because the language that he was using very much sounded like a lot of people nowadays, where he said, I saw, especially as I became a father and a husband, that this Christianity thing was useful in making me a better person.
Right.
And so that was kind of the key word was useful. And there's a lot of people.
Grace. Like that was a big point of his was that.
A point of grace.
A point of grace that, was grace was really relevant to his life and Christianity in general.
Yeah. So with that, because I think with him, and I might be influenced with this other podcast that I was listening to, but Alex O'Connor, which is kind of in the same world as Richard Dawkins, he was talking about how cultural Christianity is very much a thing where people see Christianity as useful, but they don't see it as true. So a lot of people are, because they think of it even similarly to like Stoicism. So the ideas of Stoicism and not letting things affect you and being kind of content with what you have, they're like, I see that as useful to make me a better person and get the things that I want, even though I don't necessarily believe that Christianity is true.
Yeah, I think it's in the category of all sorts of religions where it's like, okay, yeah, it has nice practices and things, but it's like one, I would say probably the majority of people think it's like one path to many, or
I can take these ideas like, oh, forgiving people, that's good, or I can be patient.
Because I feel like I know a lot of non-Christians that they hate Christians, like the ones that are really outspoken, crazy ones. But if I have a conversation with them or something, they'll be like, I don't think Jesus would act that way, or, and I'm like, you're right, he would, but so it's like they have an understanding and knowledge like of Jesus's principles, and they believe those, and those that they are good ones, but they're still not going to be Christians because they see bad fruit.
Yeah. So, and I think with the younger generation, going back to the thing a little bit, I think the thing they are now worried about is what is useful to their life rather than what is true. Because I think in other generations, it was all about, okay, what's actually true? What is truth? We're looking for really what the truth is. And I think in the world we're living in now, less people are interested in what is the truth. And they're seeing, okay, what from whatever religion, whatever ideology is useful for my life, and how can I just use that to help with my life?
What will make my life better? What will make me better? How can I live my best life?
Yeah.
And we know the answer is, how can I live my best life? It is following Jesus, but with that comes humility and sacrifice on our end. Literally dying to ourselves
daily. Yeah.
Not literally, maybe, but dying to ourselves daily and humility. And those are principles that people don't want to add on, like that you're actually not in control of your life and you shouldn't be.
Yeah. I read the John Mark Comer book. I can't remember the name.
The Way. Practicing the way.
Yeah. And the last bit of it, spoiler alert, but it's about the cost of non-discipleship. And because he said, we think about the cost of discipleship, like we have to give up all this stuff. He's like, but the cost of not following Jesus, he's like, you're actually giving up even more. He's like, you're giving up peace, and you're giving up forgiveness of sin. You're giving up all these other things that you don't necessarily think about, but it's like, oh, okay. Yeah. But he's like, it is tough because you are having to die to yourself. And that was one of the things, the Death to Deconstruction book by Joshua Porter was fantastic in how it talked about like things that like why people leave the faith, like, oh, other Christians are bad, or they don't know the Bible, or they don't know and a lot of it was outside things of like, oh, this person's mean, or like the political thing was another big one, like, oh, this is how Republicans behave, and a lot of people associate Republicans
or your own thoughts, which even J.D. Vance brought up, is like there was an arrogance to my atheism.
Yeah.
And I've shared that on here before.
She was an arrogant atheist.
No, of testimonies that I have heard from former atheists, always saying that. Like, that's usually what atheists come back with, is like, I went on a journey and realized that people were, like, Christians have already asked these really hard questions that I thought that they didn't have answers to, but they do. Like, and there's an arrogance to it.
Yeah. So, but the Joshua Porter book, the Death to Deconstruction, the last chapter is you have to die to yourself. And he said a lot of people walk away from following Jesus because they don't want to do that part. And so you can have the good morals and stuff, but like, it's like, no, if I'm going to actually commit to this, I have to die so that Christ might live in me. And so it's that it's tough and it's not an easy life to live. And so it was interesting, like hearing JD Vance say like, these principles were good. Yeah. Cause Jimmy, the same things that you said, I was kind of like, does he really follow Jesus and love him? Or is it more like this benefited me
this has benefited me. It seems like political Christianity is like that, and it greatly benefits him to be a Christian, but I can't judge him based on one clip.
Yeah. But I mean, he did say he got baptized, which is like a bigger step in like, if you're,
that's pretty public.
Yeah. If you're just like, I like the principle, it makes me feel good and stuff, you're probably not going to get baptized. And so, and also like his upbringing, I think he was a Christian growing up. He would say that he was, because it sounded like he said, then I came back to Jesus. And so I think he's had those things, but he got baptized like 5 years ago, or whatever, and talks about that. And so
what would you say it means to die to yourself?
Jimmy?
I think what it means is, it reminds me of like a Craig Groeschel quote that was actually about discipline. He said, discipline is giving up what you want now for what you want most. And basically what I see dying to yourself is giving up what you want for what you believe God's will is in your life.
Yeah, because I would say the Lord's Prayer, not my will, but yours be done. So it's me saying not what I want, but Lord, what you want. And so
what would you say to the people? Because I think there's a lot of them out there that
they're listening right now.
They're listening right now that are like, okay, I'm looking at the Christian faith. I see that there are some good principles in there. Like I like the idea of right and wrong. I like forgiving people, love, and everything like that. But I don't want to subscribe to, okay, well, we believe in this God who sends people to hell. We have to pray to him. We have to go to church, read the Bible. What would you say if the cultural Christian who thinks it's useful, but they don't actually believe it? What would you say to them? Like, is it okay to just live your life and just kind of do the Christian things?
So I would say part of that is reading the Bible, and I think as they read that, they'll be transformed by it if they're if they're really seeking it out, like if they're really seeking.
Well, because I think there's a lot of people with not only Christianity but other things where they're like, I'm just going to do these things because I think it would be helpful for me.
Well, I think there's an element to it that, the whole there's a story in the Bible where. I think I said like a parable or something. Sorry. It was like Jesus says like, I never knew you. They're like, we did all these things in your name.
Yeah.
And he says, but I never knew you. And so I think about that and then it says like, even demons know his name and tremble in fear.
Yeah.
Like
Mufasa.
Yes, just like that.
Anyway.
So to me, that's always a reminder of, again, like dying to myself. And for me, that, like you said, Jimmy, is more like I may have hopes and dreams and goals, but if I'm following the will of the Lord, then he's going to transform my heart and mind to go in his direction. But ultimately, that will be the most fulfilling thing for me, even though I might not think so.
Well, and that's actually what I was just thinking about it, because in our Bible plan, we're going through the book of Ecclesiastes, and a lot of the line that keeps coming up over and over and over again is like, everything is meaningless, essentially.
Yeah.
So he's like, I've tried all the things. I've tried being successful. I've tried having relationships. And I think a lot of people who are kind of the cultural Christians, they use all these different things as means to an end. It's like, well, if I can do this, I become a more disciplined person, more likable person. So therefore, I'll have better relationships. I'll have the career that I want and everything like that. But I think what the book is talking about is you can chase that all your life, and then you get to the end of it, and you're like, it still didn't give you the satisfaction that you were looking for. Mm-hmm. So, and then you have to kind of step back and see, okay, what can give you that satisfaction?
Haven't found what I'm looking for. Yeah, so I think I would say, who are you serving? So, like, when you're doing these Christian things or cultural Christian stuff, because I mean, they openly say they're not Christian, right? They say, I like the idea of these things, but I'd say, okay, but who are you serving in this? You're still serving yourself, and they could say,
they probably wouldn't see that as a bad thing.
Serving themselves?
Yeah, I mean, you putting yourself first, that's a very
very cultural right now.
I say, well, then you're selfish. I'm like, no, I'm just, no, if you're putting yourself before others, that's selfish, and that actually goes against what Jesus teaches. He said, look at others as more important than yourselves. And so that's, yeah. So I'm doing a study on the Beatitudes. And so it's that, like those opening, blessed are the meek, for they shall inherit the earth. So yeah, but it's these people that you're like, oh, these are the people that would be overlooked in society and things like that. And so I kind of say, hey, are these attributes of you? Mm-hmm. And if so, then you can't think about yourself first, because these aren't attributes that are self-serving or self-seeking.
I think they'd be like, okay, it's okay to be selfish. And I think that's even something that's kind of encouraged.
Then I'd have to slap them. Take this.
Yeah, so I think it's just a fundamentally kind of different worldview.
Okay, well then you've chosen to pick and choose your own religion. So this is your religion, not the Christian faith.
It's true.
And so, I mean, kind of what it comes down to is I want to do what I want to do. That's what we're studying in the book of Judges. It's like all the people, they didn't have a king. They didn't have somebody leading them towards the things of God. So everyone just did as they saw fit.
Yeah.
And I think that
it never ends well.
It doesn't. And so I think with people that are nominal Christians, if you can get them to see, hey, this is not good because you're just doing whatever you want. It
sounds like a pretty good, cool gig.
You're pulling in certain things of Christianity, but you're missing the whole point of it is that you die to yourself. Like that's central to getting rid of your sin and living in freedom. And you think you're living in freedom, but you're really not, because you're still just putting these things on that you think that's going to make you moral and stuff. But in the end, you're just doing whatever you want, and you're living as you see fit. Just like this lady in Florida. It's time for Florida Foibles.
That's right. It's not no.
Oh no!
There it is.
That was a lot of chaos.
Florida Foibles.
There we are.
We'll fix it in post. No, we won't. We don't do post. All right.
What's this one about?
Oh man. Okay. So this is how to stop erosion on your property.
Erosion.
So this lady, there was a drain pipe was installed, goggless. So she's claiming that a drain pipe
installed goggleless.
Goggless, Goglas. That's her last name.
She had no goggles.
She had a drain pipe was installed on her property without her permission. And so she's like, this can't happen. And so she said it's in Lake Longwood, Florida. So her first name is Diane. So Diane,
if you're watching right now.
Miss
Goggless.
Diane Goggles. So she said, hey, there's erosion on my property, and it's from this drain that I didn't want on here. So she took care of business, and she filled it with wet cement. But
she filled the drain with wet cement, or the erosion?
The drain. She pours wet cement.
That is a commitment.
In the drain. And so the residents are frustrated because she was given an extension to the woman accused of causing flooding. That's what caught me. I was like, how do you cause a flood?
Extension for what?
Her hair. No, for her court date or whatever. So she's not in prison. Oh. And so they're like extending it, but they're like, no.
So she put so much cement down there that it flooded.
Why didn't she just put cement in her yard?
It's a drain pipe.
Because it blocks, because she said it's coming from the drain. I don't know. So she filled it up, the drain pipes, and then there's now flooding. Stuff doesn't drain, and so there's floods in the Shadow Bay community, and so
alligators have started claiming the floodlands.
Right, here's a quote that was shared with Fox 35 News.
I love the direct quotes.
This is crazy.
Wow,
that's it.
That's
deep.
That is the quote.
But then here's another quote.
Okay,
I am very concerned about the decision to extend benefits. Wait, what? I'm very concerned that this decision to extend benefits the person who essentially vandalized the outflow pipe and doesn't consider the other 113 homeowners in the association.
Oh, what's in a homeowners association thing?
You know how those people are.
Womp womp.
So they used to be called tweets. The X's is what do you call them?
Posts, Chris. They're posts.
They're just posts.
The posts.
Post on
the people.
X.
So there was those neighborhood association ones. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Those are the best. What is it
on Twitter?
Yeah, because somebody would just post them. Because it was from that. What's the app? The Neighborly, or isn't there some?
Oh yeah.
There's
neighborhood apps.
There's homeowners association apps, HOA apps or whatever. But there's one and then you just sign up for your neighborhood.
Yeah.
Because we were encouraged to get it when we got in our neighborhood. But people post like, hey, my dog's loose. Can anybody find it?
Yeah, we have that.
Like that. But then there's ones that are like, hey, whoever's parking their boat in my driveway, you need to get it out of here.
Oh, yeah.
And then people's like, I hear a cat every night at 5:30 in the morning.
Yeah. I was
morning.
on it for a while, and then I was not.
And
it was stressing
they're
me
so
out.
funny.
People get very aggressive on there.
They do.
So wait, did I talk about my aggressive neighbor on here? Or my passive aggressive neighbor?
I can't remember.
So
I don't think so.
Okay, so I did something that sort of caused flooding in my neighborhood.
It was wet cement.
It was not wet cement, but yeah. So it was in our street, like next to my yard, and it's like the main street. So it's my side yard. I live on a corner, and so there's a curb, but we have leaves that fall, and they just get matted.
Oh yeah, they came over and were like cleaning it up, and they said you should be doing this.
Yeah, did I talk about that?
Yeah,
here?
you did.
Okay, yeah. So, so they like came over and were cleaning my
Drain pipe.
yeah, because they're like, this causes flooding. You're running the neighborhood.
They must have read this story and they knew.
They were very mad at me. I'm like, oh, sorry, you could have
You delinquent.
said something to me. But then I had to leave. But I mean, they were
You had to leave.
a little bit older, probably older than 46, but they were older, and they were shoveling because they had to like scrape these with the shovel.
Elderly people are doing the work you refuse to.
Yeah, this is shortly after the birth of my son, so I wasn't thinking about
You got an excuse.
shoveling my street. So I didn't do it, and they were like, "You should be out here doing this." Like, well, I'm going to the pumpkin patch. Sorry. And so then me and my whole family came out and got in the car and just slowly pulled away as they're like looking at us.
That's
like,
awkward.
I was like,
Sorry.
I didn't schedule this. So,
Oh my goodness.
but it wasn't like, hey, they're here to help me out of the goodness of their heart. It was like, you're down. I was like, I'm sorry. I'm bad at keeping my street clean. Like,
You know how old people are.
Just be glad I mow my grass. Yeah, should old people have jobs?
Well, those
Adrian?
people don't seem like they have jobs.
So, as I've mentioned a couple of times, I'm watching The Bear, finally on season 3, which did just come out, so this is relevant.
Nobody watches that. It's not relevant.
It just won like the most Emmy nominations of all time.
Emmy nomination. Okay, sorry, good.
So, this episode is a standalone episode that follows a woman trying to get a job. She's 46. She loses her job. And she was like a data manager or something where she like put in people's hours and kind of like HR a little bit. But anyways, so then she goes on a hunt for a job. And it's very much... Oh my goodness.
Zing.
She
Okay.
runs into just a series of
Unfortunate events.
yes, and kind of stereotypical, like this is what makes the job hunt so hard. So she like shows up to an office where there's somebody on like a Gen Zer that's on a computer that
A
won't,
Zoomer, as they call them.
yeah, that won't look at her, and it's like, sorry, that position's been filled. And she's like, but I got an email like this morning saying I can come in, and like, yeah, but it's already been filled, and like won't look at her. And then so she like, so she walks off, and then she just goes to like a retail.
Back with a shotgun.
Yeah, she goes to a retail store, and she's like, "Are you guys hiring?" And he's like, "No." And she's like, "Well, let me leave your resume. Let me leave my resume with you." And he's like, "I said we weren't hiring." And like, just kind of like, so the rude Gen Zers, and then you have like the nice HR people that are like, this. Oh, what your past experience is exactly what we're looking for. And she's like, great, I've done it for 15 years. I was at my last job for 15 years. She got fired for a layoff, so it wasn't like she did something bad or anything.
Yeah.
And they're like, well, where's your like degree? And she's like, I didn't go to college. I just was trained in it. And they're like, well, you have to have a degree. I'm sorry. And they don't hire her. But even though it's exactly, it's just, she gets real fresh. So she just runs into these series of like issues. So then she ends up at a Italian beef restaurant, which is the
Bear.
The Bear. Yeah. And she's sitting there like in this back corner crying, and the owner comes and he just sits down with her, and he's like, has your day really been that bad? And she's like, yeah. And he's like, you know what? Me too. And he's like, can I go first? And she's like, sure. And so he's like, okay, I got 3 things that are really upsetting me. And he like names them off. And he's like, well, what about you? So she names off hers. And they just have this really beautiful conversation. And he's like, this may be way beneath you, but I really need somebody to be a line cook for me. And she's like, yes. And so like the end of the episode shows her like opening up her purse when she gets home and pulling out a t-shirt with like the logo on it. And she's like smiling with like kind of tears in her eyes. But I thought it was, so the worldview.
So sweet.
I felt the worldview though was just like,
before?
No. She's terrible.
It's a DI hire. It just needed a woman to cook on the line.
Oh my goodness.
This is why.
You can't have serious conversations.
Conversations.
So what's the worldview?
What's the worldview?
Well, I thought the worldview was that somebody took 2 seconds to hear her out.
He had to go first.
Well,
He's like, wait, hear me out.
I don't know.
No,
I don't think.
I'm just kidding. I'm sorry. Okay.
I don't think she would have shared. Like, I think it was a really good view of like how you talk to people. It's like,
Yeah.
you might not, you're crying in a corner and I don't know you at all. I might not be successful. I think if you would have sat down and said like, what are you crying about?
Ma'am, if you're not going to buy a sandwich, please go back outside.
Ma'am, this is a Wendy's.
Well, that's kind of what happened is like somebody else that worked there was like, dude, you got to take care of her. There's this lady crying. She's going to scare all the regulars away. And she like overhears that.
Yeah.
And so then I think he knew that she did. And so he sits down and he's like, let me tell you what sucks about my day.
Well, I got this crying lady in my restaurant. Scared away all my regulars.
But they just had this really connection.
Oh, man.
Yeah.
That would have been hilarious. It's like, I had a bad day. And then my customers come in. And there's this woman weeping in the corner.
Crying in the corner.
But yeah, so, yeah. Because a lot of times people are like, hey, how's your day going? Like, oh, fine. Like, and it's not like we're so superficial. And again, it's like you're at the grocery store and like they're walking up. Because even Costco, they'll be like, hey, did you find everything? Sometimes I'll say yes, even when I didn't. Like, no, you didn't have sweet potatoes, Costco. And
But there's nothing you can do to help me.
Well, so there's another element. Their conversation is really beautiful. And one part is that she's telling him about her job hunt. And she's like, I feel so old because like
shut up, Jimmy.
Everyone, guys, you guys are not letting me get through like
sorry.
one thing.
Right.
So she says like they're so rude and they're so optimistic, and I want to yell at them and just say like, you don't know what it's like to have hardships, because it shows her home life, and her husband doesn't have a great job either, and she has a son at home, like but you never see him. It's just like, but he watches cartoons all day, like so.
That's a good father.
Yeah.
Man, baby.
Yeah. So she's like, I see them and I just want to yell at them. Like, you don't know what it's like to suffer. And she said, but all I can think about is how hopeful they are and how I want that, and actually how jealous I am. Cause I feel like I just want to have a place where I can feel hopeful about my future. And he kind of agrees with her. And so it's a beautiful placement for that episode, because if you think about all the episodes she has been in, it's like her journey as a cook, and they end up sending her to like night school to learn how to be like a really nice chef. Uh-huh. And so you see like where she's come from and how she kind of has that hope again. So it's like, it takes somebody to listen and instill that, like, okay, what are your hopes and dreams? I can offer you this line cook like in this terrible, crappy restaurant, but I'm still going to work with you and help you dream again. And so it was just a nice little moment.
Yeah. And so kind of what I was getting at with like, hey, we say, I mean, just people walking by sometimes like, hey, how's it going? Like, oh, good. But what does it take to actually be vulnerable with people? And even like people you don't know, because there's those moments of like, because there used to be a lady, I would go to this certain place and study and work and stuff, and there's always this lady that would be there. Not always, but if she was there, I knew like I'm not getting anything done because she's just gonna talk to me forever. But she'd be like, "Hey, how are you?" I'm like, "Oh, good." And the immediate response back is, "How are you?" And then it was, "Well."
Oh gosh.
Oh no. How has your husband died that many times?
It's the third time this week.
Sorry, gosh, that was insensitive.
Jeez, Chris, her husband died.
Sorry. No, but it was, there was always like a crisis and like just all these things, and I'm like, this is draining. And so how do you
like balance that?
Yeah, because if somebody is having a bad day, like you do want to acknowledge that and help them and all that stuff, but how do you also have that own balance in your own life where people don't? And again, it's just one conversation with that person, but it's like, we are going to have bad days. So how do we process those, and how do we help others process those in a healthy way instead of just either ignoring it because we don't want to deal with it, or just us having like constant, like chronic bad days where people are like want to avoid us because we're always like, well.
But I like approaching kind of problems that I want to get off my chest and share with somebody is almost kind of, that's why I liked seeing it represented in a show, is I like saying like, almost how can you help me? Or like, guys, at work sometimes I'll be like, guys, there's this really frustrating situation happening at my house right now. Like, have you experienced this before? Do you know a way out? So it's like, I get to unload and vent, but then they get to like workshop with me of like, so we're offering each other something. Like I'm learning from them, they might be learning from me. And then it always seems to open up a door of like, yeah, this really frustrating thing is happening too. Like and it becomes a two-way street.
Okay. Yeah. So, but and how he addressed it in the show, you said like he went first because she didn't feel comfortable. It wasn't like, let me tell you how bad my day is. It was,
it was more it was kind of silly stuff anyway that made her laugh and stuff too. So it was like just kind of building rapport before she could share.
Undermined her bad problem. Let me tell you about I had a hangnail this morning. She's like, no, but it also helps put in perspective, like, because sometimes people's bad days aren't as bad as yours. And so it's like, okay, there are just goofy things that happen that are frustrating, like jumping in the pool with your phone in your pocket.
Chris had the worst day. Yeah, if you talk to him that day, he's like, well, my day. Listen, I was in the pool.
My phone's in a bag of rice. So,
and now your phone's in a bag of rice.
All right. Well, was there anything else on that? That was good.
Well, that's so
Adrienne says she highly recommends everybody watch The Bear.
Well, they were definitely pushing this worldview of like, there's like these old school regulars kind of thing, or like we're the real people out in the world. And then there's like this corporate world that's like growing up faster than we can keep up, and they don't want anything to do with us kind of mentality.
Oh, that's a little bit what The Rookie is about.
The Rookie.
Because I would talk about this on here, but he's, I think he's 45 or 44, and he's a rookie cop. But the sergeant guy, who might be younger than him, he's like, I don't want you here. Because he's like, you represent a midlife crisis, and if you're successful, then I'm going to have every middle-aged man that thinks he needs to make a difference in the world coming in here. He's going to mess up what we have going. And so...
So what's your least favorite thing about old people?
The smell.
Adrienne?
The way they eat.
The way they eat. See, it all comes out.
Jimmy, what's yours?
I have a long list of them.
Oh, what? You said one, the least favorite. You said
the
one
least favorite? I don't know. They're the worst.
Jimmy considers me an old person.
Yeah,
so.
it's like we're old too.
So would you have hired the lady if she was crying in your restaurant? Or would you shoo her out? I would probably shoo her out.
I'd hear her out first.
You'd shoo her out?
But if she doesn't know how to cook, that's the thing. I'm like, I can offer you a job here, but I don't know. Do you know how to cook?
You're going to ruin my restaurant here.
Yeah. Sounds like everything you touch is toxic, lady. While you're working here. But yeah, I don't know. That's the thing.
They sell one thing. It's an Italian beef sandwich.
So, that's all they sell?
Yeah. So it's like, and it's just like a lunch rush place. Oh. So it's like they really need somebody to like a line cook is you just do one thing over and over again. Yeah. So it's like they have to train her one time.
So it's in a night school?
Yeah, they got chef
Chris, just
classes
watch
there.
the show, okay?
watch
I'm
the
not
show.
going to tell you what happens.
There's too many cusses.
That's it, though. Just cusses.
There's lots of cusses in the show, so
But there's
be
lots
warned.
of beautiful,
warned.
beautiful moments.
Beware
like this.
of the bear.
Beautiful. So, okay, can I tell my Is It Cake story? for
Yeah,
Shepherd?
tell it.
So
Yes.
yesterday I'm trying to leave for work, and he's got like 10 water bottles set up on a table. These are all like our kids' water bottles, so they're not just plastic bottles. They're like all
many
different
kids you
shapes
got?
and sizes. I got a lot, 4 of them.
10 kids.
But they each have like 3 water bottles that
Oh,
are
they got
around the
3.
house in various places and stuff. So he's like,
It's a
"All right."
dilemma when you have kids, just
He's
to
like-
let you know.
I was like, I gotta go. He's like, wait, hold on. Which one is cake? And I'm like, that one. And
Number
he's
5.
He's like, oh, why do you think this one's cake? And like he plays out the show as it is, and he's like
He's asked me that, and so there's lots of follow-up questions.
Which one is cake?
I was like, oh,
Why do you think that?
Yeah, I think it's the icing is off or whatever. So then he's like, then he takes it wasn't a knife this time. It was Mr. Potato Head mustache. So he's like, ting ting ting. No, that one's not. Of course, it was the last one. There was 10 I had to go through, and then finally the last one is like, oh, and it had like a little rubber top so he could push it down.
Oh my goodness!
Like, oh, this one's cake. He's like, I was like, oh man, all right, good. I gotta go. He's like, no, we have to taste it and then do cake or catch. He's like, I gotta go.
Oh my
He
goodness!
said, we've got 3 more segments.
He's like, real quick. He always ropes me in because he just starts. That's what's my favorite. I was like, no, I've got to go. And he's like, okay, what does your cake taste like? And he just just ignores whatever you said. And then I'm like, it's chocolate and peanut butter. He's like, oh, okay. I was like, what's yours? He's like, oh, it's lemon and strawberry and then red and like, oh no, it's orange. It's chocolate and orange. But then he like just named other colors. So then we had to taste it, and then we picked a winner.
This is 45 minutes.
Now I want some cake.
I know. And so then I opened the door at this point. He's like, no, it's time for cake or cash. I was like, I got to go. So real quick. They're on the table. And he had already cleared the water. I don't even know when he did it. But the water bottles were cleared off. It was like the wall had turned around and the new stuff was out. Because it's a cake. So it was a controller and like a little kid's computer. And so I was like, the controller's cake. He's like, oh, and he's about to cut it. He's like, well, hold on. And he goes over and he turns the computer on and it goes, brr, lights up. He's like, oh, that means, and he's like, is it cake? He does like the voice and everything. And he like acts like he cuts into it. He's like, you win and all this stuff. I'm like,
You'd be an excellent show host.
You're like, where's my money for all of this?
I know. So then I get home and there's a Kleenex box on the thing. And Angela's like, guess what happened to this Kleenex box? Because there's holes poked in the top. It looks like a pencil was poked into it. And I said, was it cake? She goes, yes, this was the isomalt layer that he poked through. Because he knows all the terms.
Oh, yeah.
He's like chocolate ganache. He like says all these things. I'm like, I don't even know if you know what that means. But the isomalt it's that like, it looks like glass.
Yeah.
So he poked through there's like that little plastic layer on the Kleenex box. So he's like,
that's amazing.
It's isomalt layer. Like, oh, the kid. So, all right. Well, everybody, it's been another episode of Worldview Finder, episode 55. Thanks for joining us. I'm Chris.
I'm Adrian.
And I'm Jimmy.
We'll see you next time.